You said initially that you dropped out of school. I'm assuming you're
Yep.
talking about college.
Yes. Yeah. I did
Okay.
1 year of like graphic design, 1 year of like community credits, and like took like psych classes as the major. And then I was like, look, I'm paying people to learn things at their pace, rather than going out in the world and getting paid to learn the things that I want to learn at my pace. That was the driver of that decision.
Welcome to the Maguire Enterprise podcast with Joe and James and a super special guest, Tucker. Tucker, what's your last name? Is it Baritone?
Yeah,
Did I say it?
Bartone, same thing.
Bartone.
As long as it
Baritone.
sounds Italian, I'll take it.
Yeah. I love it, dude. So we've got Tucker with us. Tucker is an owner-operator with Crumble Cookies. And man, I've known you since late 2020. It was late 2020 or maybe early 2021. You guys came to visit the Methuen store, right?
Yeah, we scooted up there like February, March 21.
Yeah. Yep. And so I've known you since then. And man, just being in business with somebody, knowing somebody in business, I feel like you just get to know them like 10 times faster because you're going through the same stuff at the same time. And I can remember a lot of late nights, and we can dive into this throughout the podcast, but just texting you texting me, what are we doing? How's this going? What's going on? So let's dive in, man. So obviously you own multiple stores with Crumble. We'll get into hopefully some of the numbers kind of later in the podcast, but give some of the listeners like, who's Tucker and like, where did you start? Where did you grow up? And then let's talk about like your first job when you're growing up as well.
Yeah, for sure. So I don't know if that part means like how I got into Crumble, or we'll touch on that later. But
We'll get there.
yeah. So first, I myself, I dropped out of school, and have wanted to do ownership ever since both my parents worked for themselves. So that's kind of
Yep.
like who I am, why I got here, the why behind it.
Yep.
But as far as where does it really start, right? Like, I was definitely the lemonade stand kid, and the ride around like a little wagon in the neighborhood with a bunch of Pokemon cards and see who wanted the ones that I didn't want anymore.
Dude, you should have held on to those. Those are popular again now.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Those definitely climbed a lot higher than my 6-year-old or 10-year-old self would have imagined. Yeah, and then like even throughout like sports, we had these things called gold cards, that the football team would use for fundraising, and they'd get like the bagel shop, the pizza shop, the laundromat, and whatever on the back, and those stores would sponsor the card and give discounts, and on the team to like get better equipment and whatever, we would go door to door in our neighborhoods and sell these cards for like $20 a pop to the neighborhood folks, so they get a discount by having the card. The stores get more customers by being on the back of the card, and the football team gets equipment by the cash that from the sales of the cards. So
And how old were you when you did that?
So that was youth football, right? So we're talking like 3rd grade to 8th grade.
And you did pretty good. Were you one of the guys that was selling
That
the
was
most?
fun. That was fun. Like, yeah, I got competitive with that, and probably was in, I don't know, top 10, 20 guys out of, I don't know, 50, 60, 80, something like that. Like not the pinnacle, but reaching the peak there. That was fun.
Well, let's be honest. A lot of the parents help the pinnacle kids.
Yeah,
Okay.
they take them to their work and they sell them to everybody. We've all been screwed over by those
Yeah,
kids.
and they hammer their aunts and uncles, and they force them to buy that crap. I get it. So, dude, you out there hustling. You could have been number one, I bet. I bet you could have been at the top.
Yeah. I was the kid who my biggest flaw was I liked the game a lot more than practice, and that probably translated over to my door knocking. Like if I knew I was going to close a deal, like if the house looked right, like, you know what I mean? Like circumstances had to be good. I'd freaking cherry pick those, stuff
I
like that.
love it.
It's wise
That's
prospecting.
hilarious.
That is. That's prospecting properly.
That's right.
I love it. So, okay, so that's like your parents. So your parents are business owners. They worked for themselves. You kind of started to see that from them. And it sounds like as you were young, like you kind of started to kind of get that sales mindset, or like, hey, if I sell something, I get paid, or the thrill of that, it sounds like when you were younger.
For sure.
Like, so walk us through like high school. What did you do in high school? When did you get your first job? Did you get an actual job, like a W-2 job, or did you just go out and do the lemonade stand thing?
Right. So to be honest, I don't remember whether it was bussing tables at Yellowfin's, like a seafood place in town, or scraping the bagel trays and making sandwiches at a bagel shop. But both of them were in the food industry. Just getting my hands dirty and being customer facing, having that kind of like in the back of the bagel shop, it was the worst. Like I just had this crazy like radio, like this crazy old radio, like dusty as heck, like just posted in the window in the back, just taking a metal, you know, the things we scrape the bowls with, but they were metal. And these are on trays that have the holes in them where you see those kind of pock marks on the bottom of the bagel. And that's a lot more stuck to its pan than anything we deal with now.
God.
I'm just going metal on metal for like 6-8 hours. Like that, like, yeah, just, I don't know how many dozens it was or whatever. I pretty much just tuned it out. And I moved on from that job quicker than I moved on from probably any other job. So I think I went from there to bussing tables, and that was more of where you see the restaurant money with the tips, which really like boosted up for somebody in high school, and small town, right? So I saw the sports friends, parents, and like the tight knit community. It was just a lot more natural for me to kind of just be in that environment. But both of them had like a grind to it. And really, what this comes down to is like, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, how old were you at that time? Was it high school, early high school?
Yeah, that's like 15. Like when I started at Bagelicious, I was probably like just turning 16, or you could get like working papers like even before 16.
Got it.
Sneak in an extra 6 months or whatever. But yeah, that was like right when you're right. It was honestly probably the excuse to get out of like the landscape yard laboring with my father. Like
yeah.
Like I may
That's
not
funny.
have wanted to work, but I was like, if this means I have to do less mulching with Bob, then I'm in.
Dude.
And
Bob! I'm sure Bob's an incredible guy.
Not for long.
Right.
So hey, you said initially that you dropped out of school. I'm assuming you're talking about college.
Yes. Yeah. I did 1 year of like graphic design, 1 year of like community credits, and like took like psych classes as the major. And then I was like, look, I'm paying people to learn things at their pace, rather than going out in the world and getting paid to learn the things that I want to learn at my pace. And that was the driver of that decision. But yeah.
So just curious, you go from high school. Why were you majoring in what you were majoring in? Because you're doing cookies now.
So Cheshire, where I grew up, is a very small suburban central Connecticut town. And so I was basically not exposed to life and its multitude of options, right? So like I grew up thinking like, all right, like I like doing art, I like doing sports, I like people. And the classes at my high school, thankfully they had like a cool like basement where all that like video production, graphic design, art stuff was really like accessible. So I loved my graphic design teacher, loved my graphic design class. I was like, dang, if I could play on Photoshop for a living and get paid for it, that sounds pretty sweet. Like I want to do art.
Dude.
I want to do art for a living. And how do you make money on art? That would just like seemed the clearest. And again, I didn't know like how expansive life was because of how small the town was. So I go into college and I'm like, all right, this makes sense. I feel like I know who the hell I am. But only because I don't know what I could be, because I haven't seen anything outside of Cheshire really. And so like getting into college was that classic like culture shock that everybody gets a dose of and a taste of when you leave home for the first time. So again, it was really just like a sheltered growing up experience, very safe, very normal, very very plain. And then like once I saw what the world had to offer, I was like, all right, like I'm definitely going to be a different dude in a couple of years. So this graphic design thing ain't it.
So what did you? So you left that, right? Decided that wasn't it, and then you did what?
A lot of it was honestly just like exploration and testing, right? So I was like, okay, I don't want to do art anymore. I don't know what I want to do, but I know it'll probably involve people and gaining further self-awareness. So that's when I just took some community classes in psych, like, you know, learning more about people, learning more about behavior, learning more about myself. I moved down to North Carolina at the time. I like moved away from family once I came back from school just to disconnect, get a clean slate, fresh start, that type of thing.
Yeah, it's
I'm
healthy.
waiting tables. Yeah, right. Like that distance can provide a lot of space and a lot of clarity to bring like, you know, whatever kind of shift you're looking for and whatever. So that worked out really well for me. It was like, you know, being 19 and paying all your own bills for the first time, except maybe I think, you know, I was getting help for like car insurance and maybe the phone bill, and that was about it. But paying my own rent, paying my own food, paying my own gas, paying my own like you know, community credit tuition and all that at 19 after growing up in such a sheltered town, like that was definitely a challenge. So I was just waiting tables at Red Lobster, because that was the best bang for the buck, right? Like in the town that I lived in North Carolina for that year, it had the highest average check price for a dinner. Like there wasn't much fancy around. It was either East Carolina University like bars or cows.
Yeah.
Like that was all that like area had. So that was like the best dinner you could get in town. So I figured I could do the same thing as I did back home, but wait tables instead of bus and run food. And that would be the best check I could make while I'm just figuring my crap out.
And that was in school. That was while you were going to school for that first year? Or that was after?
No. I went to school in Philly for graphic design, dropped out, went back home for the summer. And then after the summer, I was like, I got to get out of home. I'm going down to North Carolina.
Nice.
I'm getting my own place. And hopefully these people who like crab legs will pay my bills.
Okay.
You and Sawyer, dude. Sawyer was at Red Lobster too, wasn't he?
That's
in
funny.
Utah. Yeah, he was at Red Lobster for a minute. So anyway, we digress.
Let's come to, you know, where you're at now, right? So you're now running and operating. What was the shift? When did the shift happen of, all right, I'm actually going to take the leap or the step to do what you're doing now?
For sure. So as soon as I was out of school and got down to North Carolina, did the waiting tables and whatever, I was like, all right, I want to be my own boss. I'm not going to finish with school. Let me just learn from people that I want to have the life of, right? So and that's when all these all this that's happening now at scale with like the online education independent from institutional education started popping off. Like Mind Valley was one of the first platforms for that. I started getting exposed to how to learn how to be your own boss, whether you're drop shipping and private labeling products, generic products, and slapping a brand on it and selling it on Amazon or even eBay, or doing funnels, stuff like that. So that when I got exposed to that stuff, that's when it shifted to like, all right, like this world is ready for this type of thing. This is what I want to do. I tried drop shipping. I door knocked for Troy, who's now my partner. I came home from North Carolina. I thought it was like going to be a multi-level marketing meeting, but this kid that sat at my table at Red Lobster was like, come to this meeting. This solar thing is legit. I made $1,200 in my first deal, and I could get 10 deals a month. And I'm like, that sounds crazy. Sounds like an MLM. I've already tried out a couple MLMs. I'm all set. But I ended up going to the meeting, knocking doors for 2 years, 100% commission to sell solar door to door. I'm a 22-year-old kid, 23-year-old kid selling 20-year contracts to people who have raised a family and have been in their home for decades. And I'm like, you should listen to me about what to do with your house. And if you don't, I get $0. So,
dude, so 2 years, that's a big deal. And door knocking is no small feat. I did that for a while with my financial advising business. And that's a big deal. Like, you got to have some some balls to go do that and take the rejection. It takes a very I don't know, interesting person. It takes a motivated person to be 100% commission. That's what I was, and that's obviously what you were. So what type of training did Troy and his team get you that really got you off and running? I'm assuming you did okay. You did relatively well with it, right?
Yeah, I had already been reading a bunch and like addictively consuming like personal development and just growth content on YouTube and whatever. So that kind of the foundation. So Vivint was the solar company at the time.
Yep.
Now they're Sunrun. They've merged and they're the biggest market share that there is. So their training is phenomenal. Like the guys that they have selling, because of how much commission you can make on a solar deal, because you're creating a 20-year customer. Every deal you sell, the company is getting revenue for 20 years. So they can pay insane commissions, which is why wild. All the talent in door knocking goes to solar. So they had amazing trainings. They ranged from very technical, industry specific on how to pitch against the utilities, because they didn't really do any other marketing. They didn't, they weren't the Vivint Smart Home Arena at the time. They were just like a door to door thing. So they put all their resources into that. So it was really about just how to simplify things, how to read people, how to like establish a need, and how to answer questions and how to listen really well. Those are kind of like the fundamental pillars of what door-to-door sales kind of like started with in like the themes in their training. But that 100% commission thing, being that young and doing it's definitely the most like interesting and best decision I've ever made professionally. Like I would not have close to the amount of like emotional like adaptability or understanding of people. Grit's a big one. I wasn't a closer, and that's why I didn't last more than 2 years. I was the person who could spark the interest, who could build the relationship and build trust, who could inform and educate the customer very well. But if somebody was on the fence and I wasn't the one to pull them over to my side, I wanted them to make their own decision. It's funny because it's kind of the same root that makes me want to be my own boss. Is like, my father was so like, God bless the guy. I have two of the best parents on the face of the earth, but his style, his like upstate New York, hard ass football coach, bodybuilder, old school style, just like Bob's way or the highway. Right. So what that made me want to do the opposite. It's got to be my way. Right.
Sure.
So if I don't want people influencing my decisions too much, I also don't want to influence other people's decisions too much. So that's what made me not so much of a closer, but it forced me to compensate for not being that closer by upping the ante on like the education, the rapport, the trust, and like how to express everything simply. So that's how solar gave me kind of the building blocks for getting to crumble. And my boss at solar is now my partner. So that's how it kind of set up that transition. So that was like when I was in my mid-20s. Then I was managing 2 Elements massage franchises, and I was playing basketball with Troy on Wednesday nights. So he knew that I wanted to own my own business, went out on my own, was learning the skills that it takes to operate it and get it rolling, and like didn't know what it was going to land on or where the money was coming from. And then he found Crumble. And since we would talk at basketball on Wednesday nights, he's like, I'm buying a couple franchises. This kid's managing a couple franchises. He wants to be his own boss, and I as Troy don't want to run the stores that I'm buying.
Yeah.
Yeah. He gave me a ring.
Dude, that's incredible. I mean, that's and it goes back to, and I apologize to everybody that's watching. I look like an orange. I look like the orange man. I don't know why the lighting's jacked. I'm traveling here, okay? But we're doing podcasts remote. But anyways, don't hate the orange man here, okay? We'll fix it. But Tucker, that just brings up like all of what you're saying, the self-development, and we talk about this a lot on the podcast, knowing your why, knowing your goals and dreams, writing that stuff down. But self-developing, I love that you said that, getting onto YouTube, reading books, digesting content that built your foundation. And then you went and got that sales job. And dude, our story is like super similar, which is wild because I did very similar stuff, but it built that foundation. Dude, I learned so much from door knocking, so much from sales, so much from communicating with customers one-on-one that is so relatable to Crumble now. So relatable to being a business owner. But you set yourself up to be in a spot when you had an opportunity arise with Troy that you were ready to take it. Maybe not fully, right? Nobody's ever fully ready. I was never fully ready to get into Crumble, right?
That word ready is a funny one.
Yeah. But you the decisions that you made to self-develop and to do those things led you down the path where when an opportunity came, you said, you know what? Let me jump into this thing. I think I could do this. Do you agree with that? Or?
1,000%. It took I'm 31 now, and we started 2 years ago in Crumble. Before then, my manager job was a very modest salary and standard of living and whatnot. So quitting school at 19 and then getting into Crumble at 29, that's a 10-year gap. And if I didn't fill those 10 years with stuff that kind of primed that, who knows where the hell I would be. So
yeah. And there's so many kids that do that crap. They just waste their time instead of saying, hey, let me build a foundation. And then when an opportunity comes, boom, you might be able to jump on that and take control. All right, so let's talk a little bit about Crumble. Let's dive into that aspect of the you work with Troy. You guys get some paperwork together.
Hold on. I want to ask a question. Sorry.
Whoa. Okay.
Sorry. So
I'm also looking for a new co-host, Tucker. You seem really good at listening and talking. So
Tucker, what did you think of when Troy brings this idea of cookies to you? It's kind of, especially 2 to 3 years ago in the Northeast, wasn't really around, kind of nobody had an idea. So when he comes to you with that concept, I mean, what was your initial thought?
It hit me out of left field. It was pretty funny. So I'll try to be as quick as I can on that piece. My first reaction to when he called me, I pulled into the Elements massage place to go do my shift that I was managing. I had already given that franchisee notice that I was moving to California with my girlfriend. So I pick up. I know Troy's going to recruit me because that. Besides, we had it. It was right after COVID. We hadn't played basketball in a while, and I didn't think basketball was getting started again. So I knew it was going to be about business. I pick up the phone and I was like, Troy, I'm moving to California. I'm getting out of brick and mortar business. I'm not.
Don't even try it, man. Don't even try it.
I'm not coming back into solar, but I'll listen to whatever you got. And he goes, well, this call isn't going very well. And then he told me all about Crumble and just how early you guys and he was on it, where he thought it was going. And once I kind of took that conversation about, and he spit out some some like jaw-dropping numbers too, right? And I had pretty high trust in the guy because I've seen how he works, seen how he operates, see what kind of level of things interest him. So if it made it past his filter of opportunity, my ears were wide open, right? So that kind of was the validation and like the edifying of the concept. And then once I walked into the store and realized how quick, efficient, modern, slick it was, and then kind of their social footprint, like I knew it was a rocket ship. And so his kind of like it making it past his filter, and then my experience at your Methuen store just made it abundantly clear to me that I had to say no to going to California. So I
All right, James, you can proceed with your probably boring question. Go ahead.
yeah,
Go ahead.
good old
Oh my
Oppenheimer.
gosh. No, that's good. No, that's good. So, so that was obviously a really big defining moment for you when you're like, okay, I gotta do this. I gotta get in with this guy. So where are we now? So you guys started with one crumble, and that was Buckland Hills, correct? I think I helped you open that one.
Yeah.
And where are you guys now?
So we opened our 5th store this past November in West Springfield, Mass. We've got 4 open and operating in Connecticut over the past 2 years. So literally in our 23rd month after our first open operation, we launched our 5th. So 5 launches in a little less than 2 years, and the 6th one will be spring.
Yeah, that's incredible. That's fantastic. So let's dive into some of the questions that maybe somebody who's listening that's thinking about jumping into business or franchising, like when you started. So when you got involved, you guys signed for the licenses, you hashed out deals, you started looking for spaces. When did it become like uber real, like super, like, okay, there's no turning back. Like we signed on the line.
When did you have your first panic attack?
Yes.
That's funny. So I had done a good job mitigating them throughout the architecture, construction, and all that. And then, dude, there was one day in the final week or so of construction where you've got the electricians tying a couple things off, the sign going in, the paint going on, the baker head being stuck onto the wall. You're kind of crafting your first ingredient order. You have no idea how many, like, because the menu switches after the first week. So you're like, dude, am I buying twice as much as I need based on how many people are going to show up here, and then that's going to be stuck there, and where am I putting it? And I got the linen rep, trying to ask me how many towels I'm going to go through, and I'm like, dude, like, F if I know, So that day, all those people being in the store at once, finishing up construction, who scheduling with the health department. I walk over. I got a meeting with the UniFirst guy for the aprons and towels. I walk over to Starbucks, and my head is freaking spinning. It's almost like that underwater, like you got tunnel vision.
Yeah.
But yeah, like the end of construction is when things really were like, holy shit, like this, there's no going back.
Yep.
The only way out is through. And we've got a hold of a big kahuna here, and it's going to need some reeling. Like,
dude, no freaking kidding. And that's the truth. I totally agree. I think it's it's at the precipice of, like, everybody finally finishes, you get the certificate of occupancy, and it's like the calm before the storm.
That is a huge breath of fresh air right there. And then, that space between the inspections and the employees clocking in for the first time and the field trainer showing up. That space is like I said, that breath. But it got real when construction started. You show up on site, and guys are banging down the tanning salon that used to be there, and you're like, wow, like this is gonna be this is going to be very different in like 8 weeks.
Yep.
No
So
turning
that's
back.
extremely
Point of
rewarding.
no return.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Point of
That's
no
it.
return. So, all right. So you've got your store. You've got all these stores you opened up in less than 2 years, right? Um, the first store for you. What was that like? Really taking ownership of that. What was that first? What were the first couple months? Were you working 100 hours a week, 80 hours a week, 40
Yeah.
hours a week? Like, what did that look like? You've made the step, you're in it, and now it's go time.
8 a.m. to 3 a.m. For the first 4 months.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds like you were working in the business.
Yeah. Yeah. That was in. That was elbow deep. You know, all the way in the flour bucket. And to write a schedule on Sundays, I would have to physically sit there, take a couple breaths, and tell my eyes to look straight. I like they were crossed. Like there was like I had to like physically force these suckers back on the screen just so I could give people, put the people in the shifts that they needed to be in, that, and pair that to our production schedule and our hours and the customer flow. So yeah, I exaggerated a little bit, to be honest. There was a good amount of days in those first 4 months that I could go in at 10 or at noon instead of 8. But the general trend was somewhere between starting at 8 a.m. or noon and ending anywhere between 2 a.m. and 4 a.m., including dealing with vendors. You know
Mm-hmm.
what I mean? Like, it's not just throwing the butter and sugar together, because we're making stuff from scratch. None of this stuff gets shipped to us. Maybe a glaze or a filling or whatever, but we have what me and the team like to call a bunch of lollipops for employees that make up the vast majority of a lot of them, and we're making a bakery item from scratch with a bunch of
Yeah.
lollipops for employees. And there's diamonds in the rough. There's
Oh, for
there's
sure.
plenty of them. We have incredible people who work for us, and I would be in shambles and would not have got 5 launches done without the type of folks that we have. But that, our employee set was raised by TikTok, so you could kind of imagine. Um,
You're not
you
wrong.
know,
You should see the ones
some
up
of
here
the
in Vermont.
right. Oh, I get it. I totally get it.
But
So
no,
yeah, that
so
was the general schedule.
so question on that, Tucker. Like, and it sounds like there was a lot of pain, right? There was a lot of, nights. I mean, I'm not going to say you cried, but I definitely did at our first opening. I had those
Oh
moments of just sheer exhaustion, and there's no shame there, in my opinion, because you're thrown into this, and we decided it, right? You decided it. You're thrown into this crazy Ferrari, and the gas pedal is down, and you can't turn the gas pedal off. Like, you can't take your foot off the pedal,
yeah,
and it just goes. And customers just keep coming. And there's days where you're probably, and I'm thinking, okay, if you guys could just stop coming in the front door, that would be amazing. I don't even care about the money anymore, right?
yeah.
But the question is would you go back and do it all over again, knowing that you're going to go through all that pain and suffering again? Would you do that all over?
I would, and that is to feel what I've felt in my body, um, and to be able to say that doesn't like make sense for like how we're like designed and what you have to what you have to face to
Yeah,
to rewind and then take all that on the chin, for
for
another
sure.
round. Like it was like as far as the how tough it got, like it was at the point where like I'd be driving home in the truck after any shift and just be smashing the steering wheel, screaming, like just to get it out and be able to
Yep.
reset for the next day, and
Yep.
not take it out on a significant other, a family member, an
Yep.
employee. You know what I mean? Like that was the level of boil over. But I would do it again. Like why though? Because like there's a bunch. I could say no because I would go back and get in another business model that has similar margins,
Sure.
right? I could say no for a lot of logical reasons, but I wouldn't, just because I believe in this, like the skills and the values. Like I got into this, like obviously we get into this for money. Obviously we get into this for security
Yeah.
and for all the things that feed our families and set us up for our future. But the biggest thing I got in it for is to become someone who can who can have the carpet ripped out from the rug ripped out from underneath them and be ready to tackle whatever's next.
Mm-hmm.
Be able to handle the uncertainty, and be able to organize either myself or a group around a different purpose.
Yep.
That I then would need for survival or just to thrive, if what I have now gets taken from me for whatever reason. So crumble with the speed, the the franchising model,
Mm-hmm.
like the speed they moved, the franchising model, the power of the brand, and how they adapted to the modern market, combined with how like gritty that manual labor from scratch
Yeah.
thing is, at the pace for our group of scaling that fast. Like I don't know that I would have ever come into something that would develop the ability to go out in the wild on my own
Yeah.
and strap together whatever I saw fit.
Sure.
I can't. I would take all that pain again for those values. The root behind all of that is autonomy, right? We want to have control over our own destiny. We
Right.
want to have the say in where we go in life, and there's very few things that give the amount of tools that what me and you and everybody in this kind of space has done, that points towards that level of autonomy.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you could go open a storage facility, but you ain't going to have a line of 1,000 customers waiting to throw their crap in a storage unit, right? It's a much different concept. Still a lot of business
You got to
values.
come face to face with every single one of them. It ain't digital.
Right. 100%. Right. Exactly. Exactly. So super great, dude. So let's talk a little bit about the people that are trying to get into franchising or in the business. And then maybe as we wrap up here the next 10 or 15, we'll just want to throw some rapid fire questions at you. But what would you say to the young 20-year-old, 23-year-old that's like on the edge, right? That's maybe interested in college, but not 100% sure on what they really want to do. And they're like, I like business. I follow Gary Vee. I like Alex Hormozi. I'm listening to these guys. I'm reading these books. I'm growing. I'm learning. You know, what would be some advice that you would give a 21, 22-year-old that's maybe not super happy about college or, you know, not sure what they want to do with their life?
For sure. The essence of it is just become valuable, whatever form that comes in.
I love that.
Find a way to differentiate yourself, even if it's not different skills, just like just a different perspective and like you don't have to be like insanely unique and all this crazy level of difference and hyper individualized, but you do have to bring something to the table. You can't just be a pardon the pun, but a cookie cutter version of the guy next to you, and then expect, if you want a life that yields the resources that are above the norm, and if you want to like thrive in terms of health, finances,
Yep.
have an abundance of time more
Yep.
than most folks, you're gonna have to provide more value to other humans in the market or as an employer, than that, well above average, in order to
Now,
get
when you
there.
say value, you mean that if I have a 40 hour a week job, you mean when I add value, I only have to work the 40 hours, right? I don't need to work any extra. I don't need to give any extra time or any extra effort, right?
If your job, yeah, man, it's like yeah, if you're just, that's called just skating by, right? Like
Yeah.
if you're if you're clocking in and clocking out, and that's all you're, and filling the time with just making it through, like what are you showing the world
Yeah.
that tells the world to give you more, you're
Right.
not showing the world or your employer or the market, the customers, you're not showing them anything
Yep.
that they're that sets you apart. So um yeah, like if you're, so if you're trying to use your job for advancement, um you've got to you've got to you've got to outcompete. You've got to do, there's always going to be someone who's willing to put more into it than you. So I don't expect anybody to literally, like, every single person to be the best, right? There can only be one, but like um at any particular job in any particular industry, right? But it's just like finding the norm, exceeding it,
Yep.
then that's a new level of contribution that person has reached.
Yep.
So, and the reward comes after the contribution, not before, obviously.
Yep.
So whether it be
Preach, dude.
in spending more time, being more effective, um, offering more skills, offering more resources, and that could be relationships,
Yep.
like, value comes in a zillion different forms. So you have to, again, more skills, more resources, whether it be ideas or connections,
Yep.
more time and effort, more effectiveness. Like, something has to contribute above the bar.
So let me ask you a question on that. So knowing what you know now, right? You said you're 31.
Yeah.
Do you think that you could have, if you could, would you kind of skip ahead or skip back and try to jump into something like this at 24, 25, 27? Do you think you had the skills then? Because I think there's kind of this, people are going to be faced with college or pursuing a career in
Right.
sales or
Right.
independence. Those questions come very quickly. I have a almost 16-year-old daughter. Lots of friends that are their kids are getting older. I'm 41. So, I'm seeing that happen and just looking, going, all right, these decisions come quick. Do you think you could do what you're doing now at 27, at 25? And would you encourage somebody to do that if their mindset is set on it?
I I I would, with a ton of caution, and a ton of like disclaimers. But the reason
I like it.
the reason I say yes, even despite the obstacles and the insanity of it, is because there's 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 no downside, right? Like
Mhm. What do
like
you have to
if
lose
you
at 25?
the earlier and the bigger you fail, the quicker your learning curve, and the quicker the opportunity you have to extract the lesson that goes in the tool belt,
Yep.
right? And so I would absolutely say do it. Just know that you'll have to hedge the lack of reps that somebody, 5-10 years down the road has layered into themselves
Yeah.
with, you know um a, 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 the leadership is so much more emotional than it is like skill based, I believe.
100%.
So, like, the emotional like ability to adapt when, somebody you're in charge of is just either misaligned with you, or taking advantage of you, or simply not up to standard, and how to communicate, raising the bar with that person, or fixing an issue with that person in a way that lands as mutual, reciprocal, and aligned towards the collective. Like, those reps of having that responsibility and pointing everybody towards the mission, not having those reps sets somebody earlier, at a complete disadvantage of not having that built up. But they might have that more naturally. And again, there's the biggest thing is there's no downside. It's all
Yeah.
about how quick can you embody the lessons that make you more valuable. So if you get access to that at 21, 22, the worst thing that happens is that you feel like crap because you thought because falling on your face makes you feel like you're not good enough, and then you get around the right people and you get exposed to the right mentality that reminds you that you still have plenty of capability in you regardless of how hard you fell on your face.
Yeah.
And so that's the worst thing that happens is you feel like shit for a while because you're like, oh, can I even do anything? And
Right.
you
And we've
know
all
and,
been there.
oh man, yeah, it's
But to your point, Tucker, like as a 25, 26, 27 year old, don't expect to get ownership in a business right away. The owner or the person, right? Because you built the foundation, Tucker, Troy was like, dude, I need this guy as a partner. He saw your character, he saw your integrity, he saw your hard work. So as a 25, 26, 27-year-old, even younger, don't expect somebody, unless they really know you and they know your grit and they know your capabilities, don't expect somebody to come to you right away and say, hey, I'm going to give you 30% of my company or 25% of my
well,
company.
yeah. So when you zoom it out to like how does the bank or how does the partner or the investor or the franchisor, how do they decide um who they should be working together with on that level? Like
Yeah.
there's a ton of risk tolerance, right?
Yep.
Risk management, risk mitigation, and if there's not enough proof and enough track record and enough foundation, then what the person who doesn't have those kind of layers stacked up, what that person is asking for, if they're asking a franchisor or asking an investor or asking a bank to put them in control of all these resources, they're asking for them to just play real fast and loose, to play extremely
Yep.
risky,
Yep.
and put even more of their livelihood on the line than they already are,
Right.
and have their neck exposed, just to a crazy level. So yes, like as much as I would say go for it, know that you have to provide if you have to provide certainty to the folks that fall the hardest if things crash.
Yeah, and that comes with time, comes with energy. But back to the question of 25, 26, 27-year-old, absolutely, freaking go for it. But don't expect to be driving the Lamborghini in 2 years, and don't expect maybe ownership right away. Maybe ownership is built in over time as you scale, grow, you build that certainty like you're talking about. I mean, dude, are you driving a Lamborghini?
I got two fat dents in a 18 Tacoma.
Oh,
uh,
nice, dude. Love that.
Well,
yeah,
at least you know that truck's gonna run forever. So
that's for darn sure.
Let's go, man.
Yeah.
All right. Hey, some rapid fire questions as we kind of wrap up a little bit. What other businesses or investments are you looking at, if any?
Cool. So right, yeah, we're diversifying in the food space a little bit. There's one other franchise that we are in the near term.
And
Um,
you don't have to mention it, by the way. You don't need to
yeah,
say
I'm
the
not.
name.
To be honest, yeah, I'm
That's
not going to
okay.
put that one on the map because
That's fine. Yeah.
it could get oversaturated quick.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, we might sign for another food franchise, somewhere between 1 and 6 locations.
Nice,
Um,
dude.
open the next year and a half, 2 years, and I am dying to get into either the golf or the wellness space ultimately as like a
Okay.
legacy project.
Yeah.
I'm really into just like treating the mind and body right. And I'm really into golf. So all the skills I'm acquiring and resources as far as like capital and learning how to fund things and whatnot, like it'll point into pressing the gas on food where the
Yeah.
margins are good, and the model is solid, or like, you know, if I go the more passionate route, it'll be in food, it'll be in like golf or wellness or performance.
That's awesome, dude. What about, how important do you think multiple streams of income are?
This one is tough, to be honest, because it's so individualized. Like, the generalizations on this, to me, that there's validity in the generalizations, but only to a certain point,
Mm-hmm.
right? I think the best investment advice that I've come across that has overlapped across so many different styles of investors is just like, invest in what you know and understand.
Yep.
So if you listen to Hormozy, if anybody, for whoever listens to Hormozy,
Yep.
you'll get the dose of go all in on the thing that you're best at and
Right.
understand, which has massive leverage and clarity
Yep.
and specificity to it, right? Like, and there are people who over diversify and spread themselves thin and dabble in things that they'll never have a full nuanced understanding of. But you know, there's, you know, you'll come across a guy who owns 3 laundromats, who builds houses and has a stock portfolio,
Yep.
and is building a gym. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Like, it works both ways. I think the to extract like the most helpful core out of that is gain skills on that learn how to evaluate opportunity, like the lens of like the P&Ls that you guys are blowing our minds out of the water, with you know, compared to our previous understanding of our books. So thank God for that. Getting those lenses to look through to evaluate opportunity, and then going in on the things that you understand the best, and you actually believe add value to the world. Um, multiple streams of income, right? It's I personally want to be diverse, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yep.
in 5 or 10 years from now, it would be amazing to be, you know, have franchises cover 30% of my income,
Yep.
um, be building a freaking driving range or a golf course
Go, dude.
or a land that has a bunch of track men in it,
Yep.
and also have a stock portfolio, and have this condo rented out, to a renter, right?
Love it, dude.
So
I love it.
that's a very real 5-year, 10-year deal for me.
Yeah.
But I also could just put every single ounce of attention and energy I have into um, getting up to 50
Yeah.
50 food franchises, because it's what I know, and
Yeah.
because it's what I can duplicate the fastest and
Sure.
scale
Yeah.
the, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
yeah, hopefully that covers it. I know I gave kind of like a both answer, which is annoying.
Pretty
No,
Um,
great.
wishy-washy.
yeah,
Yeah, you weren't
it's a
very
gotcha.
decisive, Tucker. You need to be more
Yeah.
decisive.
Sounds like
Yeah,
you sounds like you want multiple streams of income, but also at the same time do not.
right. I'll tell you what, the easiest, the all right, let me get on one side of the fence here. If I were to snap my fingers right now and have my dream come true with streams of income, it would probably be in the one category. Like,
Yeah.
like go all in on one. Whether
Okay.
that meant I built a golf course and got the nicest margin out of it, and worked my balls off from 35 years old to 50 years old.
Yeah.
Um, and that was the only thing I did, that would be amazing. Or if it came in the form of, you know, combining like a really nice gym with, you know, a massage place and a yoga place, and like put a mental health person in there, and have like a one-stop shop, like wellness, like take care of yourself place. Like, I wouldn't need anything else if I got one of those things to focus on.
James, I got an idea for our next thing.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
going to be a
exactly.
gym. It's going to be a gym with a full mental health, physical wellness, everything. I got a good idea.
Nice. Let's talk about it. All
Silly,
right.
silly.
3 more rapid fire questions. What is your must read personal development book? Must read.
Yeah. I'm really into this thing called the flow state, which is something we all experience, and it's where we perform our best.
Yep.
Like kids enter it the most. Kids, action sport athletes, um, things that drive you into like a singular focus.
Mm-hmm.
Are the most prone to get you into the flow state. Like you might, when you're podcasting, or when you're balling dough or mixing dough, or when you're creating a spreadsheet, it's the frame of mind where your sense of time, your sense of self, your sense of effort, and the depth of the richness of the information around you is very much expanded, and focused. And so the book is called Flow by this guy out in East Europe called Mihai Csikszentmihalyi. But it's so we all, as individuals and as groups, we all like harmonize and align with performance and the environment around us the best when we're in this state of mind, and you can actually measure it by the neurochemicals that are being like produced in the state. It's like serotonin, dopamine, endorphins, anandamide, and gosh, there's one more. Norepinephrine, like adrenaline.
Sure.
When those 5 are all present in the brain at the same time, then you are biochemically in a flow state, and it's as powerful as the sex drive and the hunger drive, and that's why it's so natural to us and why we've all experienced it. But getting into that state more often as a team or as a person is the most important thing you can do to extract like meaning out of life and get the resources from life that you're looking for. And again, we all do it, but figuring out what your flow triggers are,
Sure.
and how to see how that plays out in the environment around you, whether it be work or working out or whatever, has been the most like expansive thing that I've learned in terms of helping me point my behavior towards like what I want to get out of life.
Dude, that's incredible. Flow.
It's
I'm gonna need
tough.
I'm looking at this guy's last name right now, and what did you say his last name was?
You can't spell it. It's the whole.
There's a lot of Z's. There's a
dude,
K. There's a couple Z's, a Y.
I think like he's like Ukrainian, Russian, Belgian, and all that. Like
I don't know what he is, man, but he's got every letter in the alphabet.
Yeah, just
so if you look on Instagram, if you look up the Flow Research Collective, it was founded by a guy named Stephen Kotler, who's an author as well. He's the most like current version of the flow state. He took Mihai Csikszentmihalyi's work and made an organization, made a training, made a company around it.
Wow.
So they provide. I was actually signed up. I went through the first part of a 2-part program to become a consultant underneath them. I paid $8,500 for this training while I made a 50 grand salary, and I put $8,500 into this training.
That's awesome. What an investment.
Yeah, it's sick. So that's the easiest way to find them now. And like entrepreneurs and whoever, they can go through their courses and learn how to like lean out their own performance, their own kind of the lens they look through at their business. Incredible. So that's been the most powerful.
I love it, dude.
Yeah, I'm really excited for this last question. I can't wait to see who the author is.
Okay. Business development book. Favorite business development book?
I will say I haven't read too many.
Okay.
I've listened. I'm more in like the podcast space on that, and I would double down on Hormozy there.
Okay. Well, that was the last question. Was going to be, what's your favorite podcast to listen to? So we could just go there.
So like the game with Hormozy, he simplifies things the clearest, right?
Sure.
When you talk about the soft skills and the hard skills
Yep.
and scaling or staying small, sales, like he combines everything in the most digestible way by a
Yep.
long shot, and he does not allow for excuses or over complexity or any of that crap. So to me, that is the most actionable and the
Yeah.
most condensed value in a short period of time that you can get on business right now.
I love it, dude. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
I
The
really am
last,
trying to think of a business book though, but yeah, go ahead.
the last thing, and you mentioned this, but you were our very first JM and JM Consulting client.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to see if you would give maybe a quick 1 or 2 minute blurb on some takeaways on what you believe you've gotten away from working with us and Magda, mainly Magda,
Yeah.
as she tackles the books, cleans that up. What are maybe 1 or 2 quick bullet points that you've taken away from working with us on that?
It's everything. Like you
Sometimes
can
I think
be
you're too nice.
No, I'm serious, dude. Like trying to run a business with your books not being optimized or not being clear or not being aligned with your behavior and style and model and whatnot is like trying to figure out why you're unhealthy without getting blood work done.
Mm-hmm.
It's, you know what I mean? Like you might know that this vitamin's good and that vitamin's good and that this food is good and that food's good, but you're still flying blind because
Yeah.
you don't know which ones you need, which ones you're oversaturated on, which ones you're undernourished on.
Yep.
um, that's how I've pronounced it to how I've expressed it to my teams is like, guys, we've got we're siloed into ordering in the past and cutting labor, but if we don't have something to compare it to, we don't know the targets and the norms across different locations, markets, whatever. And if it's not done accurately, like we're no matter how much we learn in the trenches of our business, we're flying blind. So the biggest value that's added is clarity, right?
Yeah.
It's aligned to our business. It's clear. We know what we need more of, what we need less of, where we're underperforming, where we're hitting or exceeding targets, and where we need to go. It's if you're doing business without that clear a level of books and that aligned and that nuanced level of books, like you're you're only looking at you're not looking at something that represents what you're doing and where you're going. So you might have books, but you're still blind to a
Yeah.
certain degree. So it's added, it's given us, and the biggest part too, it's an accountability piece. It's like, how
Sure.
can you how could I go to a GM and say, um, you got to get better at this and this, um, if you can't back it up with the validation of why,
Right.
or if you can't point to which invoices added to which amount that was 5% over.
Yep.
And if you don't have like, you're just kind of setting an arbitrary target if you haven't set those and validated them. So it that accountability piece, when we're talking about looking at the blood work, seeing which
Yep.
vitamins you need to have more of and less of, um, to take that information and apply it for execution. If you can't validate it enough to provide strong and clear accountability, then behavior change isn't happening.
Right. 100%. Yeah.
So that's that in a nutshell. Like, that's been, so the clarity and the accountability and just like the vision forward and the targets are the biggest thing that Magda's brought, and we were flying blind for 18 months.
Sure. Sure. That's awesome,
So
dude. And we freaking love working with you guys. We love having you. Magda loves you guys. I know she talks about Crystal quite a bit. She's rocking over there.
nice.
But dude, we're super proud to be working with you. I'm super proud to call you my buddy, my friend in business, man. Just we're in the trenches together, and I look forward to seeing what you're going to do over the next 5 to 10 years, and hopefully our
Well, we've got
paths
a good
continue
idea
to.
now.
Yeah, we do. Yeah, we have a good
Yeah,
idea.
yeah.
But
Yeah,
man.
I might come to New Hampshire with a set of matches and a freaking blowtorch or something. You guys sneak that one in quicker than I do.
We'll see. We'll see. We like to be first to market. You know us.
That's it. Oh, seriously, dude. I was actually just gonna say that in closing. Like, you guys are the GOAT of the region. So many people across the country in Crumble, and obviously in New England, look up to you guys and compare themselves to you guys. And just throwing the gratitude at you abundantly for trailblazing and for setting the tone up here.
Well, dude, we appreciate it, man. It's not an easy fight. We all go through it together, and we were happy to do it. Not happy at the moment, but happy now that we're kind of through most of it. So, but dude, I super appreciate you, Tucker, being on the show with us, hanging out with Joe and I, asking you some tough questions, getting some of your feedback. But yeah, man, super appreciate it, and we'll get this out to you shortly, and we'll catch you guys on the next episode. Thanks for watching.